So here we are at the Port Authority bus terminal, where every day people enter America's largest sanctuary city, some with the goal of hiding from the federal government. Because here in New York, one's immigration status matters not and does not bar one from seeking city services like free healthcare, food, and even a shelter bed in a former luxury hotel. And advocates hope those things encourage individuals in the country illegally to come here and make this their home.
Sanctuary laws protect undocumented migrants, the very people President Trump's administration is deporting.
Under the Trump administration, we have already witnessed a cruel crusade on immigrant families that has directly threatened the safety of our...
So in spite of the fact that dangerous individuals have reportedly come here and infiltrated our shelter systems with the goal of committing crime and growing their criminal gangs, our progressive leaders are totally against the idea of anyone who's a criminal being deported. And although that includes the 500,000 individuals who have just a few weeks to leave town, it also includes gang members and other individuals who may not have come here for the American dream. And for some reason at these rallies, everybody wants to get rid of ICE. They want unlimited protections for people who may be dangerous federal fugitives, even if those people put the immigrant communities the protesters claim they support in danger by their presence here. And we know this is happening because now at the bus terminals we've got signs that say human trafficking can occur here, and they're written in both English and in Spanish. And the reason signs like this one are everywhere throughout entry points in New York, like this one right here, is because this gang, Tren de Aragua, their goal is to look at the people around them and figure out how they could best be used to benefit their gang. They're human exploiters by nature. And you'll see their handiwork on the sidewalks of our middle-class neighborhoods, where women sell stolen items out of suitcases handed to them by men. And even though many Americans are happy when they hear stories about gang members being sent to places like El Salvador's mega prison, leaders in sanctuary cities certainly are not, which is why they are against the idea of people being told to leave this country even if they might have come here under circumstances that were rife with fraud.
It's a Biden-era program known as CHNV, which allowed immigrants to live in the U.S. through sponsorship by a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. The program was created as a way to give immigrants at the U.S.-Mexico border safe entry into the U.S. without having to go through a smuggling.
So you heard it right there. This program, it only existed to move people across the border faster. And critics say this was not some humanitarian program born out of necessity. No, instead, the only necessity was political. There was an unacceptably high level of traffic at the southern border, and something had to be done about it. But instead of closing the border, what happened was a smartphone app was rolled out that allowed people to go through the documentation process that would usually take place after one crossed the border, and then board a flight and fly directly to America. Now, did this program help at least one person? I'm sure that it did, but proponents of its cancellation say that the whole thing was full of fraud and that there was very little vetting done whatsoever. And apparently nobody running the program bothered to figure out why some 100 addresses were listed on 19,000 separate forms, or why many different applications were submitted using the same IP address. It sure looks like a whole bunch of what should have been separate, unrelated forms were all filled out by the same person or group of people. And because of this poor vetting, we may not even know who came into the country under this program. And now people in the program have been told to voluntarily leave the country on their own. And if they don't, they could be subject to deportation.
In fact, the administration is saying that the people affected by this policy change should sign up to self-register on a smartphone app provided by the government and tell people that they will be departing the country.
So as you can imagine, activists here in New York are very upset that anybody who's been allowed to enter America, even if the reasons that they were allowed in were wrong to begin with, could be asked to leave. However, New York City is already home to over 400,000 illegal residents. And what very well could happen is that, as the April deadline for self-deportation approaches, people in a sanctuary city like this already just decide to stay. After all, that's something local activists are encouraging people to do. They're encouraging resistance. But even though advocates are very upset, President Trump is canceling this program and may order 500,000 people to leave the country, there is one major red flag embedded in this program that proves it was never about helping anyone unless they were running for office.
If in the first place you're giving people opportunity, it's unfair to take that back.
The people affected were given 2-year permits in 2022 and 2023 by the Biden administration to legally be here with financial sponsors.
So this program that everybody's all upset is going away. It was never permanent to begin with. It was temporary. Now, had President Harris ended up being elected, this program very well may have been extended or made permanent in some fashion. However, its expiration date now makes it President Trump's problem as far as activists are concerned. Because as you just heard, there's a perceived level of unfairness to the idea that somebody would be invited here and then asked to leave, even if they knew that it was only a temporary arrangement to begin with, which is how protected status is supposed to work. It's not supposed to be permanent. It's supposed to only exist while the unsafe conditions in one's home country do exist. On top of that, had President Trump not won, the U.S. border would likely remain open, and keeping this direct flights program in place would have decreased visible traffic there, masking the fact that the immigration policies of the prior administration may have been making the entire border situation more volatile. But the whole debate over this program brings up a big question, because here we are in New York, which is a sanctuary city where local activists are encouraging people to resist ICE and hunker down here. And they're also demanding that the mayor, the police, and any city agency or official respect New York's sanctuary laws, even if they're not good laws. Revealing that the next big immigration fight in this country won't be over a parole program that has been canceled and was only temporary to begin with. Instead, it'll be over the very existence of sanctuary cities themselves. So as the debate in this country has raged over immigration, you've got a very interesting dynamic. You've got these sanctuary cities that supposedly exist for the betterment of immigrant communities, yet protect criminals who prey upon those very communities, something that happens all the time here in New York, yet nobody in charge of this place wants to admit it. We've got gangs living in our shelter system, bringing weapons inside, recruiting new members, and we've got gang members robbing people on the side of the streets who are then traced back to hotels like the Roosevelt, which is one of the city's largest shelters. And when you consider that these criminals target immigrant communities first, sanctuary cities may be the worst place for newly arrived legal immigrants in this country.
We're going to end sanctuary cities for some of these jurisdictions that aren't cooperating with law enforcement.
President Trump says he's looking at an executive order that would eliminate sanctuaries.
So the thing that most New Yorkers who are in favor of sanctuary city status don't want to admit or don't understand is that if you're in America legally, being in a sanctuary city is of absolutely zero benefit to you. For example, we often hear about how sanctuary cities are safer, as anyone can contact the police to report a crime regardless of their legal status. But if you're here legally, you can call the police to report a crime and you've got nothing to worry about. So that doesn't help you. And if you're here legally, you don't have to worry about getting an illegal job off the books to provide for yourself. You can get a job with a guaranteed minimum wage and receive benefits and protections like unemployment. And if your boss is unfair to you, you don't have to take it. You can leave and go get another job somewhere else. You're not a prisoner in an unfair employment situation. But here's the thing, if somebody's not supposed to be here, not only are they exploited, oftentimes by their employer, or targeted by gang members who threaten them with outsider status if they involve law enforcement or report their activities, it's the gang members and predatory employers who are the real beneficiaries of these sanctuary city protections. But this brings up a big question. How could local politicians here believe that sanctuary city laws make our city safer when we've got all of this evidence that they don't?
This is common sense.
But Jumani Williams, the city's public advocate, says deportations are about dividing society, not about safety.
Sanctuary cities are safer with their laws than other cities. They just are.
So evidence of a problem isn't going to matter to somebody who's already decided in their mind that there is no problem. In spite of the human trafficking posters littering this bus station, warning everybody who gets off any bus at any gate that we've got a massive problem in our city. Perhaps our politicians just think those are there for show. Oh, they're just there to make the world a better place. There's not actually a human trafficking problem going on here. And that's why we've got the signs, to make sure that one never pops up. That's how they think. And gangs living in homeless shelters, well, those are just isolated incidents. They may not actually be gang members. That's what the criminals say. They claim they're all innocent. You literally have to be willing to suspend reality to believe some of this stuff. You've got to tell yourself that this is all fake news, and you'd literally have to consume exclusively misinformation for this to be your belief system.
Absolutely. They're operating within. We have intelligence that they're in shelters, that they recruit in shelters, but they also branch out to communities. The problem we're having with TDA is that the intelligence of who they are, what they are, it's a little slower because they're brand new to this country.
So when the chief of police comes out and says something like this, are we supposed to believe that the entire police force of over 30,000 officers, that they're all a bunch of liars, that they're not giving us accurate information? Because that's essentially what these advocates are saying and maintaining. Yet some news outlets want us to believe that this is all just fear-mongering. That means that the people who work here must not take the bus and walk out these doors after they've had to walk past the trafficking signs that are right there on the other side of the exit. But what do you think about this? Is the New York Times right? Is this just a massive fear campaign? Is the entire New York City police force a bunch of liars? Are they out there making stuff up? And what do you think about the 500,000 people who soon may now be deported? Should they be allowed to stay forever? Or are people overreacting that the temporary program they were let into the country in is expiring sooner than anticipated? Let me know. I'll see you in the next video.
What now?
Our challenges are yours.
An X marks the coordinates. Prepared to engage.
Outdoor diners, beware. This surveillance video shows what's starting to look like a pattern of armed robberies at outside restaurants. Police are trying to figure out whether the holdups are connected.
So a new disturbing trend in New York's ever-evolving sea of crime has emerged. And even though police have no leads since the crooks targeting these restaurants all escaped on mopeds, this is the type of crime that happens so quickly and is so easy to pull off that experts say it's only going to get worse.
The thieves are demanding watches, wallets, and cell phones.
The video we're talking about shows men moving around a dining table and scaring people.
Investigators say one of them had a gun, another had a knife. Police say they got away with $200 in cash from the register and 5 iPhones from customers.
Bro, what's crazy about this is, like, they're not even trying to hide their fucking face. He's just like, yeah, it's me.
How can I help? Let's
Yeah.
get there safe and sound.
iPhones from customers.
They're using crimes of opportunity where they're just basically grabbing purses or handbags off chairs and running out.
Surveillance video shows a man toting a gun. He's demanding customers here to hand over their watches and wallets. Detectives are now looking into whether or not the same men robbed customers at Carbone in Lower Manhattan.
Is there one thing in particular that you think is leading to this?
It's a lot of things. It's a lot of the laws that have been passed that have basically tied the hands of the police.
Officers are now required to record the race, age, and gender of anyone they approach.
It slows officers.
Or die trying.
Why? That's so stupid. Who does this?
Down from going to a scene immediately.
Overall robberies are up 5% citywide compared to the same time frame last June.
Oh my God. These are not targeting New York City's restaurants. Yeah.
If you go out to eat in this city, your waiter might be replaced with a robber. Now, the police say they're not sure if these incidents are related, but what nobody's talking about is that all of these incidents are related to the fact that this city does not punish crime. And here, if you steal under $1,000 worth of stuff from any store in town, you'll suffer no consequences because that's...
Why? Why not just put him in jail? I don't even understand this. It doesn't make sense. Why would you... It's so easy. There's no space, then make another jail. But Asmon, they're people? No, they're not. They're thieves. No, there's no way you don't put up. We can't put up with this. How do you let this happen? How do people vote for this?
Misdemeanor, which has created a huge problem because for the last year, stores like Macy's have been getting robbed regularly, which is like...
if you're down bad so much that you are stealing out of Macy's, bro, this is like, you know, they have these at Walmart for like fucking a hair dye. Nobody voted for this? Well, they need to vote whoever voted for it in or out.
getting robbed regularly, which is why everything inside is now chained to the store itself. And what this means is thieves need easier targets to steal from.
Yeah.
And our money-hungry crooks, they're not looking at stores anymore. Oh no, now they're setting their sights upon the rest of us as we chow down on bagels in the middle of the West Village. Because our phones, wallets, and handbags make us walking dollar signs to these thieves who might even...
Can you carry a gun in New York?
We're ready for this.
No, why not? Because I feel like that's what they should do. Just let people carry a gun. Then somebody tries to rob them, just shoot them. What's the problem? Legally is a different question. Yeah, I feel like this probably isn't going to happen somewhere in Texas. It's a lot less likely to happen. Then criminals would have guns. They already have guns. Didn't you see the video? They're already using the guns. It's amazing.
Lurking among us as if they're just regular people.
Yeah.
Not just at restaurants, but also at the grocery store or even on the subway, which itself is no stranger to violence and crime, and now looks more like a military occupation zone because of the high levels of police doing bag checks and the presence of the National Guard. Which brings us to the real...
See, that's smart. That's what they should do. Yep, that's right.
Reason why we've now got a crime wave above ground targeting restaurants just like this. There simply aren't enough police to keep us all safe at once. In fact, New York City right now has as many police as it did back in the 90s, but the population of the city has grown by...
Oh my god, this guy. They're not even doing anything. There's just a lot of people that are standing around, and the police officer is like, all right, one of you is getting arrested. Who's it gonna be? Come on, I know there's a reason for, like, who's off parole, somebody's got a gun, drugs. Come on, let's get this done. I got a quota. Just come on forward, yep.
Over 1 million people since then, which is a recipe for perpetual crime. Because when all the crime underground started, every available resource was sent down there to stop it, leaving all of us up here utterly defenseless, easy pickings for criminals who can steal everything we have in seconds.
Well, I mean, the reason why they're defenseless is because they can't carry a gun. Like, that's the reason why it's happening. What are we talking about? Like, yeah, you don't say. Yeah, it's not even a question. Yeah, exactly. But guns kill people? That's the point. Duh. You can carry, you just need a license? Oh, okay. Well, as long as you can carry, that's a good idea.
So here we are at Carbone, a famous restaurant in New York's West Village where thugs recently targeted its patrons who were eating outside. Now, this place has a high-end reputation. It was started in 2013.
I'm sick of this. I'm gonna look it up. Can you carry a gun in public in New York City? Okay. So here we go. All right, now we actually know what's happening. New York prohibits the possession of a loaded handgun outside of the home or place of business without a license. Concealed carry is only legal with a New York pistol license. 16 hours of classroom training. So you can with a license. The Supreme Court ruled on New York City because the way they were not giving out licenses. Wow. Well, I guess now it makes sense.
Celebrities eat here, and a USDA prime porterhouse for two will set you back almost $300. And that's what makes this place an attractive destination for criminals, because they know everyone eating here can afford the food and is probably also dressed to impress.
The video we're talking about shows men moving around a dining table outside, and apparently they're demanding cash, they're demanding wallets. Detectives are now looking into whether or not the same men robbed customers at Carbone in Lower Manhattan.
Jesus.
Allegedly stealing a $100,000 watch. Police believe this could...
So this span of robberies has happened over the last couple of weeks. And before we get into the details of how these criminals operate, as well as the testimony from terrified patrons of all of these places, it's important to understand the one thing in common they all have. First, these are popular places to eat. In fact, so many people want to eat at them that not everybody can fit inside the restaurant. That's why you have these massive outdoor dining sheds.
Well, it's like, no, people do this in games, right? It's like you go outside a dungeon and you farm the mobs outside the dungeon if you don't have a raid.
Commander.
Like, no, I mean, I get how it happens. Like, it makes sense. Like, and it's smart. Right? No, that's smart. People did this in Scarlet Monastery. Yeah, exactly. So because there's like only one of them. They're not as high level. You don't have to go inside there. Yeah, no, of course.
We're crippled.
The one behind me, that is pretty much a restaurant in and of itself. Look, it's got air conditioners and stuff in it, tables inside. The bagel shop down the street has people sitting outside. But the issue is, here you are all by yourself on a public sidewalk in the middle of New York City with no police anywhere in sight. And these restaurants and businesses, they don't have security guards. No, it's just you get your food and you can eat outside if you want to, and that's on you. And this is a safe neighborhood, so it's kind of alarming that incidents like this are taking place here. But once you understand...
Well, that's why it's taking place, because why would you... Like, you don't want to... Why would you want to do it in a PvP area? You want to go to an easy area and just get free loot. Like, if you want $200, do you want to work for it, or do you just want somebody to give you $200? I mean, I think they just want $200.
Why these criminals are picking these places out specifically, it'll all make sense. Especially when you realize that people eating out in New York City as a big group are utterly distracted and not really thinking about personal safety. But there's a much more frightening reason why criminals are looking to target people specifically on the streets.
Robbery is not on the menu here at
It's easy to get away,
Sons in Williamsburg, but that's exactly what some outdoor diners got. You can see the customers give up their belongings before the gunman takes off on a scooter. When we
So New York City has a massive moped problem right now, and the thieves, a team of 2, were riding one of these mopeds, which is how they were able to...
See, this wouldn't happen. See, the thing is that if you were able to shoot them when they ran away, it'd be no problem. That's what you should be able to do. I think if somebody tries to fucking rob you and they try to take your shit, you should be able to shoot them. Absolutely.
As the unity wishes.
Yeah, it's like, because that would make it stop.
We're underway.
Escape so quickly. Now the drivers will wait in the street with the engine running just steps away from where people are sitting, and then the passenger gets off. And in the video that we're looking at here, the passenger was the one who had the weapon and who went around to each person at that table and asked for their valuables and then got back on the moped and escaped. Now observers say restaurant crime has a lot in common with the other types of moped crime we're witnessing, where thugs quickly approach.
You can't shoot someone fleeing. In my opinion, if you're stealing somebody's shit and you're running off with it,
Can I do out? This won't be
and
so
somebody
easy.
shoots you, nice shot.
We're in a tough spot.
Got him.
How can I help?
Rip Bozo.
Unsuspecting New Yorkers as they're walking down the sidewalk, take a valuable, and then ride off into the night. But you see, that type of crime, it's a crime of opportunity, because you have to be on your bike, riding past somebody who looks like someone that you would want to target. But at a restaurant, there's a whole bunch of people sitting outside with their guard down. It's perfect for criminals in a city that's not willing to protect its residents. On top of that, people at a restaurant, they're sitting down, they're on their phone, they can't get up, they can't run away, and they're dressed well most of the time. And no one at any of these places is looking for trouble. And what's sickening about all this is it is the logical progression of unchecked robberies that happen on the street.
Of course this happens,
restaurants aren't even safe places, which is exactly what witnesses of these events are saying on Reddit. This discussion covers all the... Which is exactly...
Gunpoint robbery at Birds of a Feather. Oh my God.
This won't be so easy.
Jesus.
What witnesses of these events are saying on Reddit. This discussion covers all the recent restaurant robberies, and one user writes that it all happened so fast, most people weren't even sure what was happening. On top of that, all of these crimes occurred during dining hours, between 6:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. in the evening, which means this crime is different from purse snatchings that happen on sidewalks. These were premeditated attacks, specifically targeting the patrons of expensive, pricey restaurants in expensive, pricey parts of town. The criminals knew what type of customers they were going to encounter in places like this, which is sadly
obviously, like, if you're gonna go after somebody, you're obviously gonna go after the ones that have the most money. Like, if you're one of the robbers, do you want to rob a Gucci store or do you want to rob a thrift store? Fucking duh. Like, of course they're gonna do that.
The very reason these places were pre-selected targets. But just as crimes in places like this look like an escalation over previous types of street-related crime, there's a new escalation that has now started happening with the whole restaurant scene, and it's not happening on the street.
The most recent incident happened here at Birds of a Feather about a week ago. This time, 2 men held up customers dining inside of the restaurant. The men stole cell phones and a watch. Sources tell Pix 11 News.
Look at that. The most recent incident did not happen at a sidewalk seating arrangement. No, it happened inside the restaurant. The thieves just walked in the front door and walked out with everyone's stuff. Which totally makes sense. If you're a criminal and you get away with minor crimes, you're just gonna graduate to bigger and better heists. And
well, yeah. I mean, if you can steal $1,000, you're gonna try to steal $2,000. And if you can steal $2,000, you're gonna try to steal $5,000. Like, duh. Of course. You're leveling
As
up,
we're seeing all show the criminals targeting men who have expensive watches. And if you're a thief and you can get your hands on a watch, that's something very small, very pocketable, and very expensive that you can easily resell. Because in this city, we've got as many jewelry exchanges as we have restaurants, and finding a place where you can pawn that thing off won't be a problem. But there's another element to this new pattern of crime that is extremely alarming and makes it something that it's very hard to defend
What's
against.
this?
Because let's say you're eating over here at this restaurant, or let's say you're inside a nice restaurant. How hard is it to spot someone coming into the restaurant wearing a motorcycle helmet to pick up a delivery order? That is like the most common thing. So these thieves, they can get very close to their intended victims. They can hide in plain sight, blending in with normal.
Well, couldn't they just make it a rule that you can't go inside of the building with any sort of a helmet on at all?
Prepared to engage, but we might need
Like, that's what I would say. Like, yeah, that's what you do. I mean, it's not even a question like any face covering at all.
Just as we foresaw.
Restaurant traffic. They're not even patrons at the restaurant. They just show up with their motorcycle gear.
And I know that they wouldn't follow it, right? But that's the point. So, like, if you see somebody coming in there, you know automatically, oh, fuck, this is somebody who's not willing to follow the rules. You see what I'm saying?
Hope we're up to the task.
Like every other delivery driver, and no one blinks. And this gives thieves who are riding an e-bike or a moped the opportunity to hide and bide their time until the exact moment presents itself for them to commit a crime. And even though most restaurants in town have security, how good are these cameras going to be when the thief is wearing a helmet and you can't see their face? And it's incredibly frightening to think that the next time you're having a meal anywhere in New York City, you could be being cased and spied on as you chow down. But there is something the city could do if it really wanted to take this issue seriously and really wanted to put a stop to it. But as you're about to see, the solution to all of this is so logical and so straightforward that it's never gonna happen in this city, and that's something that should not only disappoint all of us, but should frighten us.
What is it?
Because we're all targets.
What's the solution? More police? Yeah, probably.
Where do you need me?
Weren't these the same police that tried to, like, detain some guy from AMP and take pictures next to his Lamborghini? Wasn't this in New York City, too? Yeah, see, they're busy. They're busy, bro. They gotta take pictures next to cars.
Here we have ye old police department. This is the Greenwich precinct, which is responsible for protecting people who were at that restaurant Carbone over in the West Village, but it's about a 15-minute walk. And the sad truth is that New York City just doesn't have enough police to keep everyone safe at once, especially with crime waves taking place in multiple places across the city at the exact same time. Which isn't the kind of thing that matters to anybody until the watch off your wrist is taken when you're out to dinner and you still have to pay the tab because the food ain't free.
We have a staffing crisis going on in the NYPD right now. We lost nearly 3,000 police officers last year to just retirements, police officers leaving the department. Also, we're losing an average of over 200 police officers a month. So by the time we get to that end,
that is absolutely crazy. 200 officers leave the police department every single month. And not only does the police department here have monumental tasks in front of it, this attitude of defunding the police is still with us today. And that's why the numbers in the department...
Defunding the fucking police. Oh my god. Oh boy, here we go.
Department itself are declining, and they're declining at a rate that is so fast we aren't able to replenish the department with new recruits. And to make matters worse, we're losing experienced veteran officers, which means not only is our police department shrinking at a time when New Yorkers need it most with all of these simultaneous crime waves going on, the experience of the department is decreasing, which some say means its effectiveness is also going to decrease.
Well, of course, yeah, if you work somewhere 20 years, you know kind of like what's going to happen. Whereas if you're new, you're not going to have that same type of insight. I mean, that's common sense, man. Yeah, the experience is dropping. Yeah, that's the way it is for anything. There are places that 100% defund our police and it became a hellhole. Yeah, no, I mean, the people that say defund the police usually live in gated communities. The people that are actually in like a lot of these poor communities outside of the ones doing the crime are not defund the policers, okay? Like, they know they need the fucking police. It's always, you know, upper middle class people that think they have some kind of solidarity with, like, poor people, and so they want to take their right to safety away from them. They're like, oh, we're gonna try to help you. We're gonna make your life better. You're not gonna get arrested anymore by these mean police officers. It's crazy, man.
Turn the tide in our favor. We must take down
First Amendment auditors gonna have a field there. Yeah, I mean, people don't get why we have police. Well, that's because, and the reason why they don't get it is because they live such sheltered, privileged lives that they've never needed police. It's never been a problem. Like, because, you know, for them, they live in a nice place and it's homogenous. There's no issues. Everybody has, you know, is well off. It's all right. And so there's not a lot of crime.
Can we still turn the tide in our favor?
Precincts across the city where we would normally turn out 6 to 8 patrol cars, right now we're turning out 2 to 3 patrol cars in those communities on a given tour.
So what does that do to the safety of the community?
Well, I
The
wonder.
response times continue to rise. That is the reality of policing right now.
Yeah.
So some precincts are down from 8 patrol cars to just 2. That's a
Jesus.
75% reduction in available patrols. How is
Holy
that not
fuck.
a recipe for more crime in pretty much every area of town? Less
Well,
police.
yeah. I mean, if I was a criminal, I'd be like, bro, like, new patch.
How can I be of service?
We got a buff. Like, let's go.
Turn the tide in
Let's
our
start
favor?
farming.
This means response times are going to
Yeah.
go through the roof because as crime becomes more common, police are now stuck choosing which incidents to respond to first, meaning your watch getting stolen at a pricey restaurant might come in behind something much more serious. And what's incredibly frightening about this is that our criminals, they're not defunding themselves. No, they're expanding their operations in light of the lax security that
Smart.
happens whenever the police
Yeah.
divert resources from one crime wave to try
course.
and deal with another. And what makes this even more frightening is the proliferation of weapons. So not only are the thieves becoming more numerous and
New
more
York City migrant shelters under scrutiny after accused cop shooter claims gun smuggling chain. Jesus Christ. Maybe this is a mean thing for me to say, but what the fuck are you doing making migrant shelters if you can't even protect the people with your police? Like, what kind of a priority is that? You've got shelters for migrants and you can't even afford police? How the fuck do you do that? What kind of priorities is that? It's insane.
emboldened, they're also becoming more heavily armed week by week. And you know how they're smuggling the guns into shelters? They're using delivery bags like this one right here. Apparently the shelters have metal detectors, but they're not actually scanning to see what's coming in the food packages. Does that mean there's a direct connection between all of this crime and the asylum crisis? Well, no, not necessarily. But it does mean there's a direct connection between the apparati that are supposed to keep us safe falling apart and increased crime. And the reason this disaster is unfolding upon us is not only because the police are shorthanded, it's also because our laws force them to fight crime with one hand tied behind their backs. And the latest example of all this is the How Many Stops Act, which is now in effect in New York.
Officers are now required to record the race, age, and gender of anyone they approach.
It slows.
This is really something special, man. This is amazing. Wow.
Officers down from going to a scene immediately. But the other side of it is...
Okay, now critics say that this is essentially a paperwork requirement that slows down law enforcement when we need more law enforcement faster, not less law enforcement slower. But proponents say having police record this information is important to make sure that law enforcement is happening in a fair manner for everyone. Now, whether or not you think
can't you just do that with a body cam? Like, I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's important to know that, but like, if somebody's committing a fucking crime, it doesn't matter what they are.
But we might need some backup.
Like, yeah, don't you have a body cam? What the fuck?
I don't like this.
this policy is a good
Body
idea.
cam doesn't capture age? Yeah, but neither can a person. You can't capture somebody's age one-to-one. Like, there's no way.
is besides the point, because in a city with a short-handed police department, you've got to pick and choose what things you have your limited resources do. And the more time police spend using apps on their phones, the less time they have to stop crime. And as we just heard, many departments are short-handed right now, and if they've only got 2 patrol cars on the street and one of those patrol cars is busy filling out apps on their phone, there won't be enough cops to keep people safe.
Former NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher is concerned about delayed response time and the data itself. We reached out to the NYPD for a response. A spokesperson says the department has put in place policies, training, and technology to comply with the law. Officers will be using forms on...
Now, of course, this is just
I mean, here's the thing, though, right? Is like the people in New York probably voted for this, or they voted for the person who voted for this. So, like, at a certain point, I don't really feel that bad for them. Because, like, you wanted this. This is what you get. That's right. It's their fault. Yeah, that's right. I'll do it again. Yeah, you chose this. And so don't go crying about it, because this is what it is. You made it happen. They did it to yourself. Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. Yeah, defund the police. Well, it worked. There you go. Or they're uninformed. Yeah, then they're just stupid. But these people move out, then they vote for the same shit somewhere else. Yeah, I know.
One example of a law that might hamstring police in the event of an emergency. But the thing that's crazy about this is all information, all of this demographic information. It would all be available in the event of an arrest. This applies to people who the police stop in a normal interaction. For example, if the police come out of the bomb squad department over here and they want to talk to me and it's an official stop, they're going to have to put my information to the best of their ability into this new system, which will be publicly available, apparently.
But then the question becomes, if I'm not arrested for anything and there's no suspicion of guilt and I haven't committed a crime, what is the ultimate value of that? And there are fears that activists will use that information.
Well, the implication is that the reason why they have it is that there's basically a assumption that people that are minorities and part of others, like protected groups get stopped more often. So I assume that this practice is supposed to like quantify whether that's happening or not. That's clearly why it's happening. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I think that's the reasoning.
To further scrutinize our short-staffed NYPD, which could lead to more investigations that lead to nowhere and more oversight that is unwarranted in a time of increasing crime.
I also worry that there's just a general mentality, a lack of appreciation for police officers.
Well, I think the communities really support the police. It's the politicians that are enacting these laws that tie the hands of the police and put the public and the communities in harm's way.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You don't see this.
So ultimately, there's nothing wrong with a system that increases the transparency at which a public institution like the NYPD does its job. That's a good thing. It will help keep the city safe. But the problem is the resources to do it aren't included with the plan that says it needs to get done. And right now, the police resources that we have are stretched so thin that the moment there's a crime wave in one part of the city, it pulls the resources over here, and then another crime wave pops up over here because the criminals saw an opening. Do you see what's happening? The police are playing whack-a-mole with our crime waves. That's why they're impossible to stamp out. That's why we went from having a crime wave in the subway below where I'm standing to a crime wave up here at our restaurants. And you know what?
I think you know what that proves, though, is that police presence reduces crime. Because I bet now in the subways there's a lot less bad shit that's happening. It's because people don't want to fuck around whenever there's 3 police officers standing around. It's a huge deterrent. And I know that people like to act like, oh, no, it's not. People are going to commit crime anyway. No, they won't. Like, trust me. People absolutely, with all crimes, 90%, probably 99% of criminals make a...
military structure complete.
They take like, basically, they make a value judgment. Is it worth it for me to commit this crime? That's why you don't see, like these thugs and these people that are like robbers they're not robbing police officers. Do you want to know why? Because there's a high chance they're not going to win the outcome. They're not just doing this randomly. They're making educated decisions based off of the highest possible opportunity versus the lowest possible risk. The same as anybody would.
Once they get rid of this,
risk-reward
then
assessment.
crime
Yeah,
is going to
exactly.
go right back into the subway. That's exactly what's going to happen. Now, are the police perfect? No, they're not. Do they always do their job fairly? No, but they are the protection that the law-abiding have when we're at a restaurant between us and the criminals who want to ride up on the street on a moped with a weapon and try to take our belongings and possibly harm us. And that's very frightening. It's very frightening to think that we don't have the backs of the people who are supposed to have our backs. What kind of system is that? Of course it's going to be dysfunctional. Of course it's going to lead to crime waves. Is that what's happening? Is that why we've got crime in the city? Let me know. How would you fund the police in New York, or are they funded too heavily? Should we restrict their funding? Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video.
The problem is that there's a lot of instances of police officers that act unprofessionally, and they don't get disciplined in a way that is comprehensive. Like, people aren't like that mad about it. They don't get pissed off about it that much. It happens all the time. Yeah, right? And so people don't get in trouble, and then guess what happens? Well, then that's like, let's be honest. Then everybody sees that and they say, well, I fucking hate cops, which makes sense, doesn't it? Because like, if you see some cop that's like, for example, I saw a cop, these two cops were arresting this black guy, and they had his hands behind his back, and one of the cops just like straight up punched him in the face. Out of fucking nowhere. Let me see if I can find this. Fuck.
Where do you need me? Ahead slow.
No, I just tried to search it on YouTube. It seems like it's probably not going to happen. Not YouTube, on Twitter. It seems like it's probably not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to find a clip of it. But yeah, it happens pretty regularly, right? I mean, like, of course, it's not graphic or anything like that. It's just you know, unlawful display of authority. I mean, that's all there is to it. The big guy took a punch like a champ. Yeah, so y'all saw that video, right? Like, am I crazy? Like, y'all saw this video very recently? Excessive force, right? And so it's like, that dude, in my opinion, should be taken off the police force and on trial for assault. It's not even a question. But like, the problem is that you have like this weird thing where people act like there's sides to this, where like there's really not. There are police officers that are bad actors, absolutely, but that's not like the norm, right? That's not every single one of them. Which one was this? Yeah, I don't know. Checks on that authority and people will be less likely to want to defund them. Yeah, exactly. So like, that's the problem, is that there aren't really there's not accountability for like these different guys, and so that's why people hate them. 2-week suspension and pay punishment. Yeah, exactly. There's the video right there. Give it a like. This is I think this is a huge issue. Like, I mean, if you don't have police, bro, like, that's bad.
Fox News is projecting former President Donald Trump has won the 2024 presidential election.
As of now, Fox News projecting Trump currently has 277 electoral college votes.
So, Trump won the election, and that's going to come as a big surprise to most of New York, which voted 55% in favor of Vice President Harris. But even though Trump won, many progressive policies heavily supported in New York City itself, like liberal immigration laws, go against the platform he got elected on and may govern from. Which means that some really strange things are going to start happening here, especially concerning the asylum crisis.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
President-elect Trump celebrating victory in the
Mr. President, what are your thoughts on getting elected to president? Again, that's crazy.
presidential race.
This is about 20 minutes ago. The AP declared Trump the winner over Vice President Kamala Harris.
Too loud?
The greatest comeback in American political history. I mean, we've never seen anything like this.
With the arrival of more than 200,000 migrants to the Big Apple, New York City has spent more than $5 billion on the migrant crisis.
New York and New Jersey, blue states, how might these election results be felt in our area?
That's the story of the whole election, is that Donald Trump did better in Democratic areas than he did last time around.
A new warning about a dangerous Venezuelan...
I think that makes sense. There's a lot of people that have the perception that a lot of these policies, especially with like illegal immigrants and stuff, there's a lot of people who view those, they view them negatively. And they also think that this is a result of Democrat policies. And so they're going to be the ones that are the most affected by them.
Prison gang making deeper inroads in the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security says members of the notorious Tren de Aragua gang are increasingly drawn to sanctuary cities.
I mentioned how President-elect Trump outperformed his 2020 numbers, even in blue areas. Let's put a finer point on that. In 2020, he lost New Jersey by about 16 points. This year, he lost New Jersey by about 5 points.
So I would expect that Democrats are going to continue to try and...
It's like if you go around and like you're driving around and there's basically, you got, look, I mean, you got these hobos around here building rust bases everywhere. You got people cracked out trying to get one of those like little robots to like trying to hump a robot like that. It's weird, bro. You got the zombies splayed out on the fucking street. No, you don't. Fent zombies. Yeah, yeah, bro. People, that's gonna scare people.
Run to the right, they're going to try and run to the middle, and they're going to try and be the moderate or centrist party. But they got some more cut out for them, because I think many people tie the Democrats to the far left.
Yeah, true.
So Donald Trump has defied the odds and become president of this country once again. But what nobody's talking about is that this totally changes New York City's relationship with our federal government, and it's going to have a massive impact on immigration, but not in the way most people think. Because in many ways, New York City is and remains the focal point of the asylum crisis here in America. And when this crisis first began, Mayor Adams was initially receptive to the idea of thousands of folks coming here to seek a better life. But after thousands came, thousands more decided to do the exact same thing. And as of right now, we've got over 212,000 people.
Are these migrants, or are these just people that live in New York? Like, I don't even know.
Come to New York fleeing poverty, seeking the American dream. And because of New York City's generous right to shelter rules, everyone's been offered a free place to stay, which is great because it's kept families from having to live out on the street, but it hasn't exactly been sustainable, which is why many of those same families are now
It's going to make people mad because there are people that can't afford to live in a house, and then these people are getting a house paid for. And if you're a citizen and they're giving a house, or they're giving basically like giving housing, some form of housing, like I know it's not maybe a house in every case, probably not in New York, but they're providing housing to people that aren't even citizens, that's going to make you mad. I mean, I'm shocked that this is even, how is this a mystery to anyone? It's like, I mean, I feel like if you can't figure out why this is going to cause problems, you're dumb. Like, I don't know what else to say. There's homeless vets who fought in our country, and these guys get free housing. That's horrendous. Exactly, right? Yeah. And I think that's the way that a lot of people see it, for sure.
Being evicted from New York